Could we just be in the present moment together and begin like that?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For me, that's a very quieting experience. Rumi called it gazing. Rumi and Shams gazed into each other's eyes for 3 weeks straight. I think they locked themselves in a room and then they were enlightened. Maybe Shams was enlightened before that and just helped Rumi get there. They were Sufis. But it's so wonderful to begin this way, and hopefully it's infectious. Hopefully you just find yourself here, now. Not as you, with a little y, not the self-concept, but as the unified one. Which is exactly how you are living now. That you, as Muji would say, you walked out of your life.
Mm.
And you're just what I would call living prayer, or just being life, that now, is there a sense for you, Francis, that you just know what you're going to do next without thinking about it? You've told your story, I've heard it on other videos, so I'd rather have you describe more what it is to just be than to tell us the story of how you got
Yeah.
to
Yeah, right now, just, a few years of just clearing out. It's really seemingly the external things that I define as my life, but it's really also the same time is the clearing of the concepts, how I define as myself, really the self-concepts and all the things that have been used for that. So when that has been cleared away, it's just there are a lot of room, there are a lot of space, there are a lot of clarity, and feels like there is no real preference, so just allow the body just to move and involuntarily, and it does, so
And it does. Action takes place.
it does, yeah.
If necessary, as required. And even when we gazed just now, can you put into words what that is for you?
If in words, that would be just stillness, like quietness.
Yeah. So as concepts fell away and thought forms were seen as form and not content, not pure awareness or God's love or beingness, whatever you want to say, was there a final shift in perception? It took me a long time to understand what the Course meant by the atonement. To me, the atonement is the final outcome of holy instance, where you really get it, that the separation never occurred, that there's nothing to feel guilty about, and that you are the oneness joined as one. Is that how you would explain the atonement, and do you feel that that's what happened, that this final shift in perception, is that what the Course means by the atonement, where you detach from the personal self and find that you just are?
Yeah, I think for me it's more like all conclusions and all boxes, all definitions of anything have been forgiven or letting go, and it's still a constant letting go process. It doesn't really matter what happened yesterday or in the past few years. Like if in this moment conclusions are still being made, then forgiveness is required in this moment. So it's like a constant letting go, and when there is no conclusion or definition of anything, there is no conclusion or definition of the self, then that self, the vastness and the being is just been experienced. So
Did you hear that? Make no conclusions or definitions of who you are, and you will find out who you are. That was well said. There's something riveting about that. I'm a little hungry. Well, I wanted to ask you to speak more about your relationship with your mother and how she went through all the conventional mother concerns as you were awakening.
yeah.
Would you
Yeah.
feel like talking about that now?
Oh yeah, I can talk about that. I feel for sure that she was in a very worried or concerned state when I first went on this path and seemingly let go of my life. And
Did you let go of a marriage and of a job? And, I mean, how many of you out there have problems with your mother? So listen to this.
Yeah, so it was a lot of reflections from her around what about your future? What if you get sick? And how can people just survive without work for money? Like all of those conditions that I was brought up with. So the security, basically where the security lies, and the survival mode of this body has just been such a central idea in the existence. So there was a lot of reflection from her, and now looking back, I really feel that it was my own. That was the fear in the mind, because when she reflected back, I was triggered.
Yes.
And
so that's how you could tell that you were projecting.
Yeah.
Because you were able to be honest enough to find your own trigger and say, oh, maybe I do believe in you need a job for security, for instance.
Yes. And there was maybe this desire to defend, but the defense comes from fear, actually, come from feeling the need to protect something.
Because in our defenselessness, our safety lies.
That's
but
it.
Wow, what a lesson that is to learn.
Yeah.
But you were learning that with your mother.
Yes. At that point, of course, I was learning it by just trying to seemingly convince her that, because at that point, when I first stepped out of my life and wanted to live in divine providence and just follow what was truly inspiring, and it was a strong call in my heart, I didn't really know how it would work out either. So I would just, the things that I could say to her was, let me prove to you, because we can find out together. I didn't know, but let's see whether it is true or not, whether I am sustained by the food and the water, or I'm sustained
by the love of God.
Exactly. I will prove with this body, and I will show. If it is all a mistake, I better find out too. So that was like how we.
And you were partnering up with her in that sense. In a similar way where David partnered up by wearing a wedding ring and just giving people a comfort zone. Then when you are not defensive and say to your mom or whoever, well, I better find out too, let's find out. There's a joining in that.
Yes, and I think with the mother and daughter relationship, she was really seeking for connection with me, and the way that we used to find connection was through playing this role, mother and daughter, and so her being worrying about me and being complaining all the time and concerned about what I eat and how much money I have, those kind of things is in a way also playing a role to want to extend her love or want to try to find a connection somewhere, like.
Yes.
But it was a deep, much deeper calling of true connection and true love that she wants to, be able to feel.
Yes, because those concerns were just symbolic of
Yeah.
this deeper desire to love you and be truly intimate.
Exactly, and that was along the way, there were certain times that like I feel more detached where I have to put my mind into what the spirit was guiding me to do at the point, but I was in a way maintaining a connection by sharing what I was doing, even it was just so out of her comfort zone sometimes. But the fact that I was sharing my progress and by her witnessing that I've been fine and I'm happy and everything works out, just by her witnessing that and us together, we have been finding a connection that is not in a mother-daughter role playing.
Mm-hmm. There's an equalizing.
Mm-hmm. There's something that everybody truly desires to find out something that is deeper. And I feel like when we were in that, we can feel that together. I actually, even just recently, she was asking me about whether I have money in my bank account and how does it work for my life, whether I have money to buy some clothes and stuff like that, and how much I have and how much is organizations. And I was at first just play along a little bit. I said, yeah, don't worry. But then all of a sudden, I think something just popped out of my mouth and saying, I cannot think like this. What is mine, what is not mine? This is not the way that I want to think, because it makes me feel, immediately I feel the weight, like what is mine.
And it's so limiting and constricting.
Exactly.
It really is huge for you to have been able to articulate somehow, I cannot think like that. I can no longer think that way. I've had that experience too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very liberating experience once I began to trust myself. I know
Right.
David's spoken about trust, to trust, wait a minute. Like if somebody has said to me, you really have a bad opinion of me, and first I want to comfort them and say, no, I don't, but then I've realized I'm not even thinking that way. So I can't even address what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I'm not having a bad opinion of you, nor really a good opinion of you.
Right. Yeah. And that was like, when I did say that, it was a little surprising to her, because the thinking is in that direction. All of a sudden, the reverse of the direction, and I just shared what was that I needed to say, and I needed to hear, and I needed to remind myself. And we both were lifted up, and at the end she was very, to my surprise even, she was very grateful for that talk. She was like, yeah, this is what your life is about. It's not about accumulation, possession, but it's about giving. And so she actually said, how do you know where you travel to? I said, I will travel based on invitation. Someone invite me. And she said, I invite you. I said, yeah, but like someone who would invite me to, also this presence or interested in this message. And she said, I will invite you to be my teacher, to be my personal teacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened with Ramana Maharshi. He went off when he was like 16 years old, after he had a death experience, a panic attack, and then awakened. And he felt drawn to Arunachala, the mountain in Tiruvannamalai. And his family went searching for him. His mother came searching for him. And when she found him, he was wearing his little loincloth. And other than that, he was naked. And she was horrified and said, everything your mother said, come back to your life. We'll marry you to somebody. Your house is so comfortable. We miss you.
Yeah.
But do you know she became his greatest devotee?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, even with families and mothers, they seem to say things, but it's like a deeper call for love and connection, and knowing that who we truly are there's no difference when we extend this message from the source. We can really truly connect.
This makes me think of, I believe in the manual it's section 21, what is the role of words in healing? Something like that. And when something shifts and pops out of your mouth that's unexpected, and then look at the ripple effect of it.
Mm-hmm.
The role of words in healing is that you stop talking and then let yourself be surprised by what emerges from your mouth.
Yeah.
And then pay attention to it. It's not just for the other person.
No.
You are the other person.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
It's a beautiful story about your mother and the surprise gifts within allowing the truth to come through.
Yeah.
You never would have dreamed that your mother would have truly invited you or been your student.
No way. But that was for me to see that there is no difference. Your brother is not different. There is no superior. I'm not superior by being, like we talked about intellectual, which is all about accumulate knowledge. But this path is truly unlearning and realizing who we are, and we're not different from our brother. There is no gap. So it's a very humbling journey, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you live now without knowing anything? In other words, is there no longer a desire for a relationship, a desire for to live in a certain place, or are there no passions anymore? I have a real passion for dancing, but in the last few years I haven't danced very much at all. And I don't really miss it, although I know if I dance, I'll enjoy it. That's clear to me. It would be difficult not to enjoy dancing. But
I would say there's inspiration and passion all the time, but it's more in the moment, and I don't really know, inform what they are anymore. I don't really feel I know what I prefer to eat anymore, because it changes, and what I prefer to do, I just complete, like conclusions about myself have been washed away, so I don't have desire for a preference for the form in the next moment, including whether I say I want a relationship. No, I can't think about it. But if in this moment, because I'm not, so I don't desire it.
right,
Yes.
because everything is perfect right now.
Yes. Yeah, anything around the personal and the illusory world, they always have two sides, seeming opposite, negative side and seemingly positive side. They're exactly the same. There's no difference, and I guess the trick of the world is to try to have one side and push away the other, and then have the struggle around that. But you can never have more of one side and push away the other side. It's always come as a package, and to see through that and to see that there is no purpose, to try to strive for anything in this world, because it's just the duality, and have two sides as a balance, but just to be able to let that all go.
The Course says something like, kill or be killed is the way of the ego, and that it's savage and bloodthirsty. But in another place it says that the ego is a quaint absurdity. And my experience is that the longer I do the Course and recognize who I really am, that the more the ego is a quaint absurdity.
Mm-hmm.
And as David said earlier, things get so lighthearted and humorous and funny, and you could be stuck at the airport for 24 hours and you're just there, in the unique airport world. So everything becomes easy and just what it is.
Yeah.
Some people want to know if it's the ego that's learning or unlearning. And my experience is, no, it's not the ego. It's this larger consciousness that there's this shift, and then the ego is seen for what it is.
Yes, I agree, and I think the course, that's why the course is so genius. Like, it seems like an intellectual course and study book, and if we only stay at the intellectual level by gaining the vocabulary and talk about it, it is really the ego that is talking about it. But the course is pointing to an experience. It's basically saying you don't even have to understand, but if you just do what I ask you and keep practicing, then that is not the ego. The ego is undone through that process.
Yes.
That's why we just keep talking about transfer of training and experience, and what the course is pointing to.
Could you say more about transfer of training?
Transfer of training is to practice the metaphysical ideas and not just to talk about it and to try to understand it in order to reach enlightenment or awakening through understanding, but just, in right now we will just use everything that come up in a situation or in a relationship, any kind of relationship, to just watch the concept and the beliefs that are still unquestioned in the mind, and to be able to let go of that conclusion constantly. That is practice over time.
In the introduction to the workbook, Jesus says that we're going to learn that transfer of training, I believe. And then if you go to lesson 121, there's actually a light transfer exercise if you'd like to have a clearer sense of just how to use transfer of training.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a really good clarification of whether it's the ego that's learning or not. And I've had a lot of people ask that question. So if the ego is studying A Course in Miracles, just notice if you're learning the terms and, getting very smart about what the definitions are, and if it's a gathering of information, and that's not what the Course is about.
No, and I know that ultimately it's about, you don't want anything between you and your brother. Bill Sefford had that beautiful example when he went to a course group and people were arguing about the ideas in the book and asked him to decide which one is right, and he actually tore apart the page.
He ripped the page out.
He ripped the page out and saying that there should be nothing that's between you and your brother, and that is the ultimate transfer of training. If it is all about who is right and who is wrong, which one is right, which one is wrong, future goals to achieve instead of present forgiveness and present connection and joining, then that is the ego.
And I want students to know that when you're in a study group and you have a great urge to clarify the course to a fellow student in that study group, that it would be much more useful for you to ask yourself, what is this great urge that I have to clear things up for that other guy? Go deeper, sink deeper into yourself and find out, I want him to understand because then maybe we can both understand together, or, if he doesn't understand, maybe it's not true, or find out what's going on for you. You don't really have to explain A Course in Miracles to anybody else. Absorb it like a sponge. I've noticed that a lot. In fact, I've encouraged my students to, I think similar to what you do, is to say what's going on. So I'd rather have a student say, right now I am yearning, like it actually feels desperate inside me to say something to you, and I want to find out more about my desperate yearning.
Right.
Yeah. Because that will be your undoing. Not a proper explanation to somebody else. That won't undo you. It's good to study all the terminology and distract the ego by having it study A Course in Miracles. That would be good. Keep it amused, keep it involved. And then little by little, you will have bursts of illumination as on a deeper level you really get what the Course is explaining to you, what Jesus is sharing. Does that seem right to you?
Yeah.
Is there something else? I don't know you that well as I know David, so I don't know, like whether you like movies or something. Is there something you'd like to talk with us about that I haven't thought to ask?
um, I don't really know. I like movies. We watch a lot of movies. Use that. I guess I really like the fact that the movies is almost like a condensed version of the world, and you see the symbols being played out. You see the spirit's part in orchestrating everything, and characters' relationships being used for the greater good and for the forgiveness and for the undoing for the characters on the screen. I can see that so clearly, and that's what we talk about, not just what happened, but more around how the symbols are being used. And sometimes it's easy to get lost in this screen, this movie, but when we watch a lot of movie, it just transfers as well, to see, oh wow, this is how it is used.
Yeah. The minute you said that, I realized that Shakespeare often would write a play within a play. And that's, I guess, our contemporary form of that is watching movies.
Yeah, it's used movies for awakening, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's such a pleasure to meet you and sit in your presence.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mm.